After the rectilinear motion, let us go ahead with the next topic called as the projectile. Now when we talk of the projectile as such, then the projectile is going to be an object which is thrown freely such that it will be acted upon only by the gravitational acceleration, though it is not thrown in the vertical direction. It could be the case that the object is thrown, say, from the top of some building. The object is thrown from the top of some building. Only thing is, it will now make some angle. It is not thrown vertically up. So the object will travel in this manner before it hits the ground. So we will be knowing the initial velocity. We might be knowing the angle with which it is thrown. This is called as the trajectory of it. What we were considering earlier, that was it is thrown up vertically and it is going to fall down. Now it is not necessary that we should be always throwing it up. We can just throw it with the horizontal velocity also, and it might fall somewhere over here. Or we might increase the angle with which it is thrown, and it might hit some other point which will be ahead. And if we still increase the angle, then probably it will be going in this manner and will be falling much closer than the earlier cases. So these are the different cases which we will come across. If we still increase the angle, it might go like this and will hit the ground, and then at one point it will just go up and come down. This is the extreme case that we have already considered. What is remaining is the case when it is thrown with some angle alpha, and dependent on alpha how this distance is changing. This is the consideration, and how the velocity of that particular particle will be changing when it is moving in the air as such. Now such a particle is called as a projectile, and to give the consideration for the velocity, the change in the velocity, we will have to have a closer look at this particular situation. Now instead of keeping the object at some height in the initial case, we might think of putting the object initially also on the ground and is thrown with some velocity, say u, at an angle alpha with the ground. So it moves in this manner and will hit the ground. So let us consider or start with the first case. Now this velocity is going to have two components, that is the vertical velocity, vertical component, and the horizontal component. Horizontal component obviously will be u cos alpha, and vertical component initially will be u sin alpha. Now if we consider any intermediate point, then the velocity is always going to be tangential to the path. And suppose this angle is some other angle alpha 1 and the velocity is u1, then you will again find out the horizontal component and the vertical component of it. Now if we consider the topmost point, then at that time it is having only the horizontal velocity. And then if we consider some point over here, then horizontal component is still towards right, whereas vertical component is downward. And then when it hits the ground, even at that time we can calculate the velocity, its horizontal component as well as its vertical component. Now the observation over here is when the object is moving, every time the horizontal component is towards right, whereas the vertical component is changing the direction. That is one thing. Secondly, some terminologies are to be understood. One is called as the range. This will be called as the range of that projectile, and this is the maximum height that is reached. Now also consider the fact that the projectile is acted upon by only gravitational acceleration. Now gravitational acceleration g can affect only velocity in vertical direction. In other words, we can say that the horizontal velocity throughout this path is going to remain constant. Of course, this is under the assumption that we are neglecting air resistance or any other resistances which might come into picture. So these are the points which are to be remembered when we actually start with the discussion of the projectile. It is acted upon only by the gravitational acceleration, and the gravitational acceleration will be simply affecting the vertical velocity. And as we see it in the diagram, the vertical velocity, which was initially upward, becomes 0 at the topmost point, and then there will be a vertical component which is in the downward direction, whereas horizontal component is always towards right and is going to remain constant. And so the discussion that we will be having of the projectile, that is to be considered separately for the horizontal direction and the vertical direction. So we will make two columns, horizontal direction and vertical direction. And then at t equal to 0, horizontal velocity will be equal to u cos alpha, whereas vertical velocity is u sin alpha. Acceleration in the horizontal direction is 0, whereas acceleration in the vertical direction will be equal to minus g. Now this is the consideration that we are using. Now if I consider that the total time of flight, if it is say t1, so I can consider t is equal to t1 situation, that is total time and then when we consider the total time, then we have got the equations like s is equal to ut plus half at square, and when we use this equation in the horizontal direction, we will find that the range is equal to u is initial velocity, that is u cos alpha into t1, and acceleration is 0. So we get the formula that r is equal to u into cos alpha into t1, where t1 is the total time of flight. And when we use the equation s is equal to ut plus half at square in the vertical direction, then you will find that the net displacement in the vertical direction is final height minus the initial height. Final height is 0, initial height is 0, so the net displacement will be 0. So it is 0 equal to u sin alpha into t1 minus, it will be half g into t1 square, and so we can write it as u sin alpha minus g t1 by 2 into t1. Of course we are getting two values of t1 as 0, that was of course initial displacement which is 0, and then equating u sin alpha minus gt1 by 2 to 0, we get t1 is equal to 2u sin alpha upon g. So we get the total time of flight. We get the total time of flight. Now when this t1 is substituted in r, then we will get r to be equal to u cos alpha into 2u sin alpha upon g. So it will be u upon g into 2 sin alpha cos alpha, that is sin 2 alpha. So it is r is equal to u into sin 2 alpha upon g. That is another consideration that we get in this particular case, where now once we consider the total time, then the maximum height will be reached when t is half, because we are going to consider the symmetric motion in this case. This is going to be the position when t is equal to t1 by 2. Now at t equal to t1 by 2, at t equal to t1 by 2, we have nothing to say so far as the horizontal movement is concerned, but in the vertical direction we can very well say that v is equal to, which is going to be u plus at. If we substitute, then we know that the velocity, vertical velocity at t equal to t1 by 2 is going to be 0. Initial velocity in the vertical direction is u sin alpha, minus it is going to be g into t1 by 2. We will get from the vertical direction that the velocity at the maximum height point is going to be 0, and using the equation v is equal to u plus at, I will again get value of t1 as the same one, 2u sin alpha upon g. But our interest at this point will not be to find t1, because we have already calculated it t1. This is just another way by which t1 can be calculated, provided that the motion is entirely symmetric. We want to find h max. We can say that at t equal to t by 2, s is equal to ut plus half at square in the vertical direction. That is the consideration. Then h max will be equal to u sin alpha into t1 by 2 minus half g into t1 square. Now we can substitute value of t1 as 2u sin alpha upon g, and then you will get it as u sin alpha into 2u sin alpha upon g and original 1/2 minus half g into 2u sin alpha upon g bracket square. So this will ultimately turn out to be u square sin square alpha upon g minus half into 4. Of course we are required to substitute t1 by 2 here also. So this is upon 2. So this cancels. So it is going to be u square sin square alpha upon g square. So ultimately it comes out to be u square sin square alpha upon 2g. So we get one more formula in this case as h max is equal to u square sin square alpha upon 2g. But these are all the considerations when the object is thrown from the ground and it is hitting the ground. So the consideration over here is going to be the one where the net vertical displacement is going to be 0 as such. Remember that in case of projectiles, we are not going to remember any formulae as such, because those formulae will depend on the particular case, as whether the object is thrown from some height or is it thrown from the ground to hit some height, or is it going to be the same height consideration as we have discussed it just now. So let us consider another case and try to derive the same entities once again. We will be considering the case where we are always given the initial velocity of that projectile and we are also given the angle at which the projectile is projected. So consider a case when we are given the information that the projectile is thrown from some height with initial velocity u, which makes an angle alpha with horizontal. The projectile travels in this manner and hits the ground. Additionally, we are given the information that the net height of that building or the initial height, say h1 of that projectile, and we are required to find first of all distance r1, that is the distance at which it is going to hit the ground. So aim over here is to find r1, then total time of flight and maximum height reached. So this is what we want to find, and the data that is given to us in this case is u, alpha, and the height of the particle, height of the projectile at t equal to 0. As I have shown you the earlier case, even over here the considerations are going to be the same one. That is, we will be dealing with the horizontal component of velocity as well as vertical component of velocity in the separate manner. We are required to consider horizontal and vertical directions separately, and again the horizontal velocity initial is going to be u cos alpha, vertical velocity is u sin alpha, and then we can even make a note of maximum height, which is h max, and let this be achieved at t equal to t1, and the total time of flight, let it be considered as t equal to t2. Now obviously, as the motion is not going to be the symmetric, the trajectory is not symmetric, so t1 is not going to be half of t2. In the earlier case, it was the particle which is thrown from the ground and hitting the ground. In that case, t1 happens to be really the midpoint. So we are required to consider the cases at t equal to t1 and as t equal to t2, whichever is simpler to us. So let us start with the two columns, like horizontal and vertical. These are the two directions that we have. At t equal to 0, velocity is u cos alpha and vertical direction velocity is u sin alpha. We also know that at t equal to 0, s is nothing but h. This information is available to us. Now, of course, if we talk of the acceleration, then even that information can be written. Horizontal acceleration is 0, vertical acceleration is going to be minus g. we will directly consider at t is equal to we don't have horizontal displacement as h. Horizontal displacement is initially 0. Vertical height is h. At t equal to t2 if we consider, then at t equal to t2, r is nothing but range r1. S is equal to r1. Acceleration is still 0. Velocity is constant. And in the vertical direction, if we consider it, then the velocity is not known. Displacement s is going to be 0. Now with this information, we will try to apply the equations. We have the equation as s is equal to ut plus half at square. I am talking about the vertical displacement as such. Then s can be written as final minus initial. So it is going to be 0 minus h is equal to initial vertical velocity, which is u sin alpha into t1 minus half into g into t1. What is the time? Time is t2 square. So we will get it as the quadratic equation like half g t2 square minus u sin alpha into t2 minus h is equal to 0. Out of this, g is known to us, u is given, alpha is given, h is given. So we can solve this and find out value of t2. Now if this value of t2 is substituted in the corresponding equation, that is s is equal to ut plus half at square in the horizontal direction, then you will get it as r1 is equal to u cos alpha into t2 plus 0, and so we will get the value of r1. This is after this we substitute. So out of the two answers which are required, that is to find r1 and the total time, we have got both the answers at this moment, but we have not used any ready-made formula. Now when we give the consideration of t equal to t1, we know that s is nothing but h max displacement, and we also know that the velocity in the vertical direction is 0. Velocity in the vertical direction is 0. So we can use the formula, that is v is equal to u plus at, and you will get it as 0 is equal to u sin alpha minus g into t1. And so we can determine time t1 from here as u sin alpha upon g. So at this particular time t1, the velocity is going to become 0. Now the displacement s is equal to ut plus half at square. Now s can be written as h max, that is final height minus initial height h, is equal to u sin alpha into t1 minus half g into t1 square. Now on the we are already given the height h, u, alpha, t1 we have calculated, g is known, t1 is known. So therefore we can determine h max, and we are through with the problem. We are through with the particular solution. We are still using only the basic equations. We are still using only the basic equations, and still we could derive the required formulae and proceed with the solution. Now the third case that we are required to consider is exactly opposite. It is going to be exactly the opposite one. where the projectile is thrown from the ground. The projectile is thrown from the ground and then it is hitting some wall at height h. The distance between the point from where the projectile is thrown and the wall is also known to us as r. Is also known to us as r. We are required to determine one of the two, that is either u is to be found out and alpha is given to us, or alpha is to be found out and u is given to us, and also the time is to be calculated. So the problem could vary like the data that is available to us is r, h and say u. The second case could be, it will be r, h and alpha. So any of the combination, and aim will be to find alpha, h max as usual and time. Whereas in the second case the aim could be to find u, h max and time. Of course the problem can be solved in any form over here. Let us consider the first case when we are given the velocity but we are not given the angle. We are given the distance between the initial position, that is from the point from where the projectile is thrown. From that point till the wall the distance is given to us. H, that is height at which we want to hit the wall, even that is given to us, and our aim is to find out the angle with which the projectile should be thrown. Now we will assume that if we are going to use the same notation once again, then when we have the maximum height we can say that the time is t1, and then at t equal to t2 we have the height as small h. Let us consider, let t equal to t2 be the total time. Again the two considerations, horizontal and vertical. We have the equation s is equal to ut plus half at square in the horizontal direction. We know that the distance travelled in the horizontal direction at t equal to t2 is r, so it is going to be u cos alpha into t2 plus 0. Now in this case both alpha and t2 are unknowns. U is known to us, r is known to us. So at this juncture we cannot move ahead. The second equation, which is again s is equal to ut plus half at square, can now be used. It is h, because it is final height minus initial height, equal to u sin alpha into t2 minus half g t2 square. Now in this case h is given to us, u is known, alpha is unknown, and even t2 is unknown. Even t2 is unknown. So we can think of substituting t2 from the horizontal condition into the vertical equation that we have got, or it could be done other way around, that is find out value of t2 from here, which rather appears to be a difficult one. Any other consideration that we might think of, that is finding alpha directly, is not going to work, because if you try to write sin alpha from here or u sin alpha t2 from here, then the right hand side is going to be h plus half GT2 square, and even if we take the ratio, then alpha will remain, but even T2 will still come into picture. So it will be better if we find out T2 from here and substitute. So from the first equation, value of T2 comes out to be R upon U cos alpha, and if we substitute it in the second, then we will get it as H is equal to U sin alpha into T2, that is R upon U cos alpha, minus half G into T2 square, that is R square upon U square cos square alpha, R square upon U square cos square alpha. So this comes out to be R tan alpha minus 1/2, rather minus G upon 2U square R square sec square alpha. Left hand side is H. Now H is known to us, R is known to us, U is known, G is known, R is known, and this becomes the equation in terms of alpha. Now if this equation is to be solved, obviously we are required to substitute for tan sec square alpha as 1 plus tan square alpha, and then we get the quadratic in tan alpha, which can be easily solved to find out value of tan alpha. This has to be solved numerically. There is no point in continuing with the symbols henceforth. Now once we get the value of tan alpha, we very well get the value of alpha also, and then that alpha can be substituted, because we know that T2 is nothing but R upon U cos alpha. So when you substitute value of alpha, we will get even the value of T2. So the two answers which were required can be easily determined. So in case of projectiles, the policy is going to be a simple and the straightforward. Now if it would have been other way around, that is alpha is given to us and we are required to find U, probably the same procedure would have been worked out. It will be the same equation that we will be using. Only thing is, instead of getting the quadratic in terms of alpha, we will be getting the quadratic in terms of U, and you will determine U from here, and then from that U you will find out T2. The terms over here, U cos alpha, out of that, once we know U and we want to find alpha, next time alpha is known, U is to be found out. Here we were getting the quadratic in terms of tan alpha, instead of that we will get quadratic in terms of U, that is U square term. Fine, we will find out the value of U, and then we will go ahead to substitute it in T2 and we will get value of T2. So even if it is the second type of problem, still the sequence in which the problem is to be solved is not going to change, it is going to remain the same. But in case of projectiles, as I am again repeating, we are not going to remember any formula by heart. It has to be derived at the time when we start solving the problem, and still we can get the correct solution. It is not a singular value that is considered at one time, but we are required to find either the range of the velocity or the angle, that is the range of the angle to cover a particular distance. Let us have a look at the very first problem. It is a problem related to the belt which is going to carry sand. So it's a belt drive, and that belt is continuously moving. So there is a drive over here which is making this belt rotate, and from somewhere the sand is falling onto this belt, and this sand will be carried, this particular belt is making an angle of alpha, and then it will be thrown off, and it is going to be the projectile like motion, and it has to fall into some container. The container is placed at the distance equal to R, and the width of that container is given to us as a D. The belt is at a height of H. The belt is at a height of H. So this height is given to us as h, from where it is thrown. We are required to find the range of, or we are required to find values of u for which the sand will fall in the container. And so this is the container. Now here our interest will be simply 2 points, because there will be a case when the sand is going to just fall at this particular point, point A, and there will be a case when the velocity is slightly more, the sand is going to fall at this point, that is point B. So if we solve the problem twice, once for A and once for B, you will be getting two different values of u, and that will be the range of values of u for which the sand is going to fall into the container. We are given the data that is available to us in this case is h, r, d, alpha. This is the information that we have. So when we start solving the problem, it is for point A. We will consider let u is equal to u1. Now obviously the range r is to be covered, so I can write the equation directly by applying s is equal to ut plus half at square. By applying the formula s is equal to ut plus half at square in the horizontal direction, it will be simply u1 cos alpha into the time, say t1. So we get the formula for r. Then applying the same equation in the vertical direction, we will get it as 0 minus h is equal to u1 sin alpha into t1 minus half g t1 square. So we get the second equation by applying the vertical direction to the equation s is equal to ut plus half at square. Now what all is known to us? We know r, we know alpha, we don't know t1. We know h, we know alpha, we know g, we don't know t1. So the unknowns over here are u1 and t1. Now observe that from the first equation I can very well substitute the value of u1 t1 from first equation. This is first equation and this is the second equation. From first I can say that u1 t1 is equal to r upon cos alpha. Now as we substitute u1 t1 in the second equation, it will be minus h is equal to r upon cos alpha into sin alpha minus half g t1 square. Substitute in second. And you will find that h is known, r is known, alpha is known, g is known, only unknown is t1. You can determine value of t1. And if you determine t1, then that t1 can be substituted in the first equation. In first equation, we have u1 is equal to r upon t1 cos alpha, and so u1 can be calculated. Now when we try to solve the problem for point B, everything is going to remain same except that when we apply the equation s is equal to ut plus half at square for point B, then in that case the horizontal displacement is not going to be r, it is going to be r plus d. So if we consider the velocity as u2, then it will be r plus d is equal to u2 cos alpha into t2. This is first equation, and then 0 minus h is equal to u2 sin alpha into t2 minus half g t2 square is going to be the second equation. Procedure is going to be simply the same. It is u2 t2 that we will calculate from the first one, which is r plus small d upon cos alpha, and when we substitute it, we will be getting value of t2. Substituting that value, we will get value of u2, and then obviously the range of velocity in the first case is going to be from u1 to u2. Range of velocity is going to be from u1 to u2. So in a way, a straightforward problem. Have a look at the second problem that we have. In the second problem, it is said that some building is under the fire. The width of that particular building is W, and the fireman is standing at a distance equal to R from that building. The velocity of that water flow is a fixed one, that is u, and we are required to determine angle alpha so that the water flow will hit the top of the building somewhere. So the extreme cases could be, it will be hitting this point, say point A. It will be hitting this point, say point A, or it might be hitting some other point, that is the extreme one, point B. Now we don't have to discuss this problem any longer, because all the information or the procedure is just going to be the same as the previous one. All the information that we are using over here is just the same. In the previous case, alpha was given to us and range of u was to be found. In this case, u is given to us and alpha is to be found. Remember that when we consider it, we will have to take into account the height of the fireman also, that is small h. That means the net vertical displacement in this case is going to be final position minus initial height, that is h minus small h, and then this is going to be constant, and horizontal displacement is going to change. For point A, it is going to be capital R, and for point B, it is going to be capital R plus W. Again, it is going to be u1 t1 and u2 t2. That is how the problem is to be solved. Equations also will remain the same. Substitute the appropriate values and we will be through with the solution. So these are the kinds of problems which we are required to solve in case of projectiles. Another typical case that we come across in case of projectiles is when it is thrown over the inclined plane. When the projectile is thrown on the inclined plane. So the consideration is like this. So the projectile is thrown at an angle of alpha with horizontal, and the inclined plane is making an angle of theta. So angle made by the inclined plane is theta, and angle of the projectile with horizontal is alpha. It is thrown from point A and is hitting the inclined plane at point B. Now very often I have seen that the students are drawing the diagram in this manner. That is as if this is symmetric. Remember, the gravitational acceleration on the inclined plane is not going to change the direction so that this figure will turn out to be the symmetric one. The figure is still symmetric only about the vertical line. This is h max and this is going to be the symmetric figure. This is going to be the actual symmetry. So this curve that you are going to draw is going to be like this only. You will not be having the symmetry about the center point over here. No way. This is not a symmetric curve about the center line. So this is how the curve is to be drawn. We know that at the topmost point, see, under the gravity, whether the ground level that we are considering, whether that ground is inclined or it is slopey, that doesn't matter, because it is going to be the motion in the free air. It's a free fall that we consider, and the gravitational acceleration is going to be acting only in the vertical direction. Now the advantage that we have over here while solving the problem is, if we are given distance L, that is between point A and point B, then there is a definite relation between the two entities that we normally considered, that is R and H. That is the only thing that will come into picture. Otherwise, even if this particular inclined plane disappears, still the problem is going to be solved in the same manner, because we will be simply considering it as a problem like this. And this kind of problem we have already considered, that is, on the horizontal it is going to travel distance r, and vertically it has to hit the wall at a point h above the ground. This problem is solved. Now even if there is an inclined plane over here, the problem is not going to take any different shape as such. Only thing is, instead of giving r and h, this distance L is given to us, and so the problem is to be tackled with that consideration. So inclined plane concept we will be using over here to determine value of r. So r in this case is nothing but L cos theta, whereas h in this case is going to be L sin theta. And theta is given to us. L may not be given to us. So the problem will be, given u, alpha and theta, find distance AB. That is, a projectile is thrown with some velocity, say 10 meters per second, at an angle of say 70 degrees with horizontal along the inclined plane, which makes say 30 degrees with horizontal. Find the point at which it will hit the inclined plane. That is, find the distance between the point from where it has been thrown and the point where it hits the inclined plane. That is, distance AB is to be calculated. Now again we will start with the same consideration, saying that let T1 be the time of flight. That is the total time. Now same considerations, horizontal and vertical. Same equation, S is equal to ut plus half at square is to be used, and when I apply it to horizontal and to vertical, in horizontal I will come to know the equation as r is equal to u cos alpha, because u is given to us, alpha is also known to us, time is t1, r is not known, u, alpha are known to us, t1 is unknown, r is unknown. When we apply the equation in the vertical direction, you will get it as h is equal to u sin alpha into t1 minus half g t1 square. In this case also u, alpha and g are known to us, and the unknowns are h and t1. So in all we have unknowns as r, t1, h. There are three unknowns, and right now we are having only two equations. But we can very well substitute r as L cos theta and h as L sin theta, and probably we will be through with the solution, so that there will be only one unknown L that is introduced, or it is replacing r as well as h, and then these two equations will contain only two unknowns, that is L and T1, and then it will be solvable. So substitute R as L cos theta. So you will get it as L cos theta equal to U cos alpha into T1, whereas the vertical direction it will be L sin theta is equal to U sin alpha into T1 minus half G T1 square. Now solve these two simultaneously and you will get value of L as well as value of T1, that is time of flight, and we can very easily complete the problem. Now even if the projectile is thrown from point B to hit point A, the problem is to be solved exactly in the same manner. The problem is to be solved exactly in the same manner. So these are a few problems which are related to the projectiles, and then any problem that we could be given, we will be always using the horizontal and vertical directions separately. Even if it is going to be some derivation, some formulation, use horizontal and vertical directions separately and go on determining the different unknowns. Remember that the time at which the projectile is reaching the maximum height also will play very important role. Let us go for the last derivation, that is, we are given the velocity of the projectile and we are required to determine the angle alpha with which it should be thrown to get the maximum range. Given U, find alpha to get maximum range. That means horizontally it should travel the maximum distance. Horizontally it should travel the maximum distance. This was our very first case that we had. Velocity is given to us. We are required to determine angle alpha. This was range R. Now, if the time of the flight is taken as say t equal to t1, then we know that R is nothing but U cos alpha into t1, and we also know from the vertical direction, that is 0 equal to net displacement in the vertical direction is initial vertical velocity, that is U sin alpha into t1 minus half G t1 square. Now of course from this we can determine t1, which comes out to be 2U sin alpha upon G. Now when this t1 is substituted in R, we will get R to be equal to U cos alpha into 2U sin alpha upon G, which will be U square sin 2 alpha upon G. U square sin 2 alpha upon G. This was the formula that we have derived earlier. Now range has to be maximum. That means dr by d alpha should be equal to 0. And if we go for determining dr by d alpha, then as we differentiate it, it will be U square upon G into derivative of sin 2 alpha is going to be cos 2 alpha into 2 equal to 0, and therefore we get cos 2 alpha is equal to 0, or 2 alpha is equal to pi by 2, because cos pi by 2 is 0, and therefore alpha comes out to be pi by 4. So when the projectile is thrown at an angle equal to 45 degrees, this is 45 degrees, pi by 4 radians, that is 45 degrees, we will be achieving the maximum range. And then the value of range at that time can be calculated. So R max will be equal to U square sin of 2 pi by 4, that is sin of pi by 2 upon G. So R max achievable, that is U square upon G, and will be achieved when alpha is 45 degrees. When alpha is 45 degrees. And we can also determine the time of flight in this particular case. We can also determine the time of flight in this particular case. So this was the derivation that they might ask you, as to find out alpha for which the range is maximum. Now another consideration is that there could be two angles for which the range is going to be the same one. There could be two angles for which the range is going to be the same one. Now that is a consideration which will again come from the formula of R. We know that R is equal to U square sin 2 alpha upon G. Now whether I write it in this manner or whether I write it as R is equal to U square sin of 180 minus 2 alpha upon G, it is going to be the same value as such, because sin of theta is same as sin of pi minus theta. Now what was the angle in this case? The angle with which we were throwing the projectile, that was alpha. And in this case, if we just try to write it in the same form, it will be U square sin of 2 into 90 minus alpha upon G. So in this case the angle is going to be 90 minus alpha. That means if we are given the case that the projectile is thrown with angle 15 degrees, then the range that it will achieve will be the same when it is thrown with alpha equal to 90 minus 15, that is 75 degrees. So remember that to achieve the same range, it is possible to have two different answers. One answer is theta, then other answer is 90 minus theta. One answer is alpha, other answer is 90 minus alpha, and the same range can be achieved by two different angles. And when we say that the same range is achievable by two different angles, one of that angle is bound to be less than 45 degrees and the other angle is going to be greater than 45 degrees. So these are all the things which we are required to consider in case of projectiles, and there cannot be any problem which will go beyond the scope of the problems which we have discussed over here.